Forgiveness and gratitude to stay away from porn and explicit matter. Do you need to forgive somebody? Perhaps is it yourself? Well, let's dive in this episode of Porn Brain Rewire the podcast with me, Dr. Trish Leigh, brain health and sex addiction recovery coach. And let's think about all the ways that forgiveness can help you out, all the people you might need to forgive, and some really practical action steps to be able to start that process of forgiveness. Then we're going to pivot into gratitude. This is the Thanksgiving episode, and you've probably heard me say before that Thanksgiving is one of the days of least consumed pornography. And I love that because instead of watching porn, people are in their homes with their families, with their people, tapping into gratitude and being grateful for what they have instead of being caught up in isolation and offsetting what they don't have. So let's figure that out together today. And of course, stay with me until the end of this episode because I'm going to present to you two brain hack strategies so you can get started with forgiveness and gratitude right away. We know that when you're caught in the porn trap, that it's a cycle of self-soothing, self-stimulating to offset painful feelings inside. We know that it leads to shame and guilt. We know that it then can lead to secrecy, which can make it even more difficult to get the help that you need. And the proverbial downward spiral, which is also known as a negative feedback loop in terms of neurological functioning, it continues on and on and on. Breaking free from that cycle can be very challenging, but it's not impossible. So let's start with forgiveness. Forgiveness is one of the fundamental aspects of religions and spirituality worldwide, and also the moral compass of many people worldwide. So this is probably in line with what you've been wanting to tap into anyway. So let me tell you how to do it. So there's three aspects of forgiveness. This is what we're going to talk about first: offering, seeking, and feeling forgiveness. So offering forgiveness is offering the forgiving or the thinking, feeling, and behaving in a way that changes a negative attitude or negative behaviors towards yourself or somebody else. We're going to dive deeper into that in just a minute, but that's the offering of forgiveness. And there's the seeking of forgiveness, which can be very, very difficult. Now, in this aspect of porn addiction or porn use or porn habit, you may have found yourself in a position where you were using defense mechanisms. So maybe you justified your behavior, maybe you rationalized your behavior to your wife or your spouse or your partner. Maybe you denied your behavior. Perhaps you even manipulated your partner if they got too close to finding out your secret sexual habit. You may have outright gaslit or convinced your partner that they were way off and that they were overbearing and controlling. And in fact, they were right about your behavior. Those are all the defense mechanisms. And I say this without judgment because I want you to know those are strategies that you've used in the past when you are in a position of feeling bad about a negative behavior, morally incongruent behavior, or something you don't want to be doing. You may have been caught in that position. And instead of saying, "I'm sorry," you use these defense mechanisms. So we talked about offering forgiveness. Seeking forgiveness is easy. "I'm sorry. Please forgive me." Now, it's simple, I should say, but it's not that easy to do. So let's think in a minute how you're going to do that. Lastly, so we have offering, seeking. Lastly is feeling forgiveness. So if you say, "I'm sorry," and another person says, "I forgive you," that feeling inside is one of peace. It's one of relief. It's one of joy. When my kids were young, I would make a kid, whichever kid wronged another kid, which obviously with five kids was happening all the time when they were little. One kid hits the other kid, and I would make that offender, the one who hit the other kid, I would make them go up to their brother or sister and say, "I'm sorry for hitting you." And it's a skill. This is a skill that you may not have been taught. I taught the kids to go say, "I am sorry." And then I taught the other kiddo to say, I forgive you, so that I'm trying to teach them to offer forgiveness, seek forgiveness, and feel forgiveness. Because when you do these three things, you can stay out of shame. You don't have to feel guilty and you don't have to resent anybody else. Those three things are very powerful negative emotions. Those three things can keep your brain stuck in a neurologically dysregulated pattern that we know from science is at the core of a porn habit and addiction specifically. So those negative feelings can really push you back towards the screen. I want you to learn how to stay out of them. Okay, 5 targets of forgiveness. Who might you be forgiving? The 5 targets of forgiveness are number 1, yourself. Number 2, others. We'll dive into that in a minute. Number 3 might even be your deity or the universe. And divinity or your divine source is a way that I think of it. And I'll use the word universe all day long. If you've met me, you know I use the word universe a lot. I believe that the universe is on my side. I believe that the universe and God are helping me, my deity. So I want you to tap into that idea of you might even need to ask the universe or your deity, you might need forgiveness from him or her or it, or you might need to offer forgiveness. We'll think about that. But self, others, deity, universe, your community, or your family. So let's talk about this for a minute. There's been many times that I have to forgive myself for something I said or something I did. And I am a work in progress, just like you. I am nowhere near perfect. I will be the first person to admit it. So when I do something wrong, when I say something I don't want to, I have to ask myself for forgiveness of doing that. It is the way that I get better at all the things I'm trying to get better at. And it can be as simple as breaking some of the parenting habits that I use. I talk about this a lot because I will use old patterns with the hubs or I'll use it with my kids. So, for example, my precious son, Seamus, needs braces again. Yes, again. So it is, it's a pretty big nut to swallow getting your kiddo braces in the first place, the first time. Being told they need it again is just painful. It's just cruel and unusual punishment having to pay for braces for one kid twice. Of course, he's the only kid in our family who's needed braces. And then he didn't wear his retainer. But, our world blew up with the whole toxic mold poisoning thing. So, my eye wasn't on if that particular child was wearing his retainer. I've wanted to say to him, why didn't you wear your retainer? Because braces are super expensive and I don't want to have to buy them for you again. They're too expensive. I have caught all those words many, many times so that I wouldn't say that to him. That shames him. That creates guilt in him. That makes him resent me. So instead, I have to check in with myself. Am I willing to get him braces again? And you know what? I came to the conclusion that yes, I am willing to do that. That as his mama bear, it is still my duty to help him be able to be as healthy as possible. And, I've had to have cavities filled for the kids. Nobody wants to pay for fillings. I pay for the other children are in a lot of different sports and activities. He's a kiddo who doesn't ask for anything. Actually, he never asks me for anything. So my way of supporting him is paying for braces again and not shaming him for needing it. But old me would have said, oh, they're too expensive, yada, 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 because that's what I grew up with. I'm trying to become better. So the thought came into my mind and I forgave myself for wanting to say it. But then I caught myself and I didn't say it. We're going to go there for you in just a minute. But the times those things came out of my mouth, I had to forgive myself and go, you know what? You're a work in progress. You're getting better every day. So if you're doing something or you're saying something, or if your porn habit, every time you go back and there's a slip or a relapse, you have to forgive yourself. But you also have to realize you're evolving every minute of every day. Every second, you should be a new and better version of yourself. So the strategy is to forgive yourself of 1 minute ago. And I know that can be difficult because it's 1 minute ago and you feel like the same person, but you can forgive yourself thinking about you 5 years ago when you hopefully were entirely different than you are now. It's easier to forgive that version of yourself. So you have to forgive yourself, others. Now, I know I had to do a lot of forgiveness around my parents, and I'm sure a lot of you out there. And actually, this really kind of, upsets me when I see on social media. I don't get upset by much, but when I see on social media, there seems to be a trend where, younger people are learning all of the toxic dynamics within a family dysfunction. You've heard me talk about it here before. I think of the dysfunction as everybody has it. It's just a matter of degree and flavor. So some people have more family dysfunction that really creates a lot of trauma that you have to deal with, and that puts you in survival mode, dysregulates your brain, making it more difficult to stay out of porn. But at the same time, Brene Brown, who's a famous shame researcher, even though it pained her, she came to the conclusion that everybody is trying their best with the resources that they have. So if your parent does shame you, and I actually heard my husband say, tell and Shay that braces are so expensive. Give him a little bit of the business about the expenses. The idea is if your parent does that, they are doing the best that they can with the resources, the emotional maturity, and the emotional intelligence that they have. When you change your attitude from that really frustrates or annoys me about them, you can then forgive them for acting in the way that they act because you realize they only have limited emotional intelligence skills. Here's the caveat that should motivate you to want to have better skills than they had. That's what I'm talking about. When I don't do that programming that I learned from my parents, I am breaking intergenerational dysfunction and trauma. The part that pains me when I see it on social media is young people are learning like that your parents are terrible because they're dysfunctional. Well, we all are, but we all should be trying to become better, right? And, having compassion and empathy, that is part of forgiveness and gratitude. So it doesn't mean you accept dysfunctional or traumatic behaviors from your parents, but when you understand that that is the motivating factor, is limited emotional intelligence, it makes it easier for you to interact with them. Now, let me give you an example. I remember this example as clear as day. My parents came down to visit me. They haven't been down in years because they're not well, but down, I mean, from Buffalo, New York to Chapel Hill, North Carolina, where the sky's always blue. They haven't been down in a really long time. So this was over a decade ago. And it was when I was much more emotionally immature. My parents were coming down, and just the thought of my parents coming down would dysregulate my brain. It would make me very anxious. I would be stressed out. I knew I'd have to spend a ton of time with them. I knew I didn't want to. The dynamics were off. And I can very distinctly remember like rushing home to pour a vodka tea. I can remember running home before my parents would get there to pour a drink to take the edge off because I was going to have to hang out with them for the whole day. Now, obviously, that's awful because I'm going to an external source to temporarily regulate me, take the edge off, so I can endure an interaction that felt very difficult to me. Now, my parents weren't doing anything, they were just being themselves. So, this is what happens with emotional maturity. And we know from science that these aspects develop as you grow older, especially if you buckle down and want to learn them. I can very distinctly remember them coming like 5 years later, and I knew my brain was in a much better spot because I use technology, neurofeedback, which is a service that I offer. I can see how my brain is performing all the time. That's what I do with people when I work with them. But I knew 5 years later, my brain was in a completely different place. And I very distinctly remember my mom opening a jar of pasta sauce, putting it in the refrigerator, and it was like open and dangling in the refrigerator on the edge of glory. So then one of my kids comes along, opens the refrigerator door, and you know it, that jar of pasta sauce comes out and explodes everywhere, everywhere. And I remember in that moment checking in with myself and going, I'm not even stressed. That doesn't even frustrate me. I could see that coming because that's a behavior that my mom would do. But at the same time, I was so grateful for just the complete shift in my neurological functioning, in my emotional regulation, in my self regulation skills. And I wasn't even annoyed. I could just forgive the fact that that's a behavior that my mom did. And I can remember sweeping up the glass and wiping up the pasta sauce just in my glory that I could handle it. I didn't need anything to take the edge off, nor did I feel those feelings. That's what forgiveness does. And that's what perspective change does. That's also gratitude, which we're going to get to in a second. Just being grateful that my mom could come down. She's not able to come down anymore. Grateful to be able to spend time with her, even though she exploded pasta all over my kitchen. Okay, when it comes to God or universe, it may be that you feel like you've gotten the short end of the stick and that you're frustrated with your creator because of the life that you are living. I want to offer you the suggestion that you are a co creator in that life and that you have choices. And I'm going to give you new choices in a minute. Maybe you feel like you have to ask the universe or God for forgiveness for your behaviors. Well, we know that the universe and deities are forgiving and they forgive you because this is the human condition. It's a tricky one. We are not perfect, but we really do need to take the opportunity so that as we move across our life, on your deathbed, on your last day here on planet Earth, I want you to be able to look in the mirror and know it's been a life well lived, even though it's had its ups and downs, even though you have had challenges, you took the opportunity in the challenge to persevere. My husband jokes with the kids that I should have been dead 3 times. When my precious daughter was born, I had a lot of complications and I basically bled out. I was pronounced dead. I had a near death experience. I was basically pronounced dead, but I came back. That was one time. This whole mold thing almost took me out too. And there was another one too. But my husband always says I should have been dead 3 times, but I cannot be kept down. I cannot be kept down because I have perseverance and this life is too precious to me. And all of the people in it and my mission, helping people to come out of the screen and get back on purpose. I want to see out the days and I want to make the lasting impact that I can. I am not ready to look at that person in the mirror yet. This is a life well lived. It makes me want to keep living it. That is what forgiveness of the whole situation, whether you need to be forgived from the universe or you need to forgive the universe, it goes hand in hand. Community or family. So that goes back to what we're talking about here. Maybe it's your parents. In my family, there has actually been, we're conditioned to not deal with conflict. So in my family of origin, as we call it in the business, we are deal to we're just literally bred to pretend conflict doesn't exist. But as I grew emotionally, I said to the family, we have conflict. Will you please look at it with me and resolve it? They weren't really able to do that. So, of course, the younger version of me was really frustrated about that. The more mature emotionally version goes, those people aren't able to do that. Thank goodness I am. Because when conflict arises in my family with my children, you know what we do? We look at it. We talk about it. We get mad about it. We resolve it. We figure it out and we don't stop until we do. So I can have compassion for the people who aren't able to do that, but I'm not going to do it anymore into the future. So those are the 5 targets: self, others, deity or universe, community, and family. So that's what we're talking about here. Now we're letting go of the negative emotions that you have towards these targets, and we are now developing newer, healthier, positive emotions. How do we do that? Well, we do it by no longer committing the acts that you perceive as morally wrong. No longer doing it. That's where quitting porn or staying away from explicit matter of all types, that's where it fits into the equations. So it could be porn proper, it might be sexual media in all different forms, it might be sexually acting out with other human beings. Yes, that counts. And yes, that leads to sexual arousal dysfunction, namely ED. I get that question a lot. So if you're acting out sexually in a secret way that your partner doesn't know about or that you feel shame and guilt about, it's imperative that you break free from that behavior so you no longer harbor these feelings that make you need to, feel, offer, or seek forgiveness. This is how we break it. We no longer act in the way that creates the feelings that necessitate forgiveness. Instead, we tap into more benevolent emotions and behaviors, thoughts, and feelings, those that are healthier and kinder towards ourselves and others, compassion and empathy. So let me give you a brain hack strategy and then we'll move on to gratitude for a minute. When it comes to forgiveness, I use a strategy that I call act, think, feel. That is the opposite of what happens when you're neurologically regulated. Your brain's in a really good spot from neurofeedback with me, if you're interested. When your brain's neurologically regulated, you're in the zone, what happens is you can feel your feelings. You can feel painful feelings of abandonment from your family, which I have felt in the past and probably still have twinges of. I can feel that I've wronged people. I can think about how that makes me feel and how I'm going to take a course of action to stay with the benevolent feelings and not get into negative feelings. I also then make that action step. So when you're regulated, it's feel, think, act. When you're not regulated, and if you're still caught up in porn, or if you have erectile dysfunction or sexual arousal dysfunction from porn, you are neurologically dysregulated. You can see that on a QEEG brain map. That's the service that I provide. And you're dysregulated. It's imperative to act in a new way, think in a new way, so you can begin to feel your feelings. So, how are you going to act? You're going to act with greater compassion and empathy for yourself and for others. So when somebody frustrates you, don't be frustrated. Figure out how to have a little bit more understanding for their situation. When you do something, try to gain some understanding. But very pragmatically, you have to act in a new way. So if you used to yell at a person, you don't yell anymore. You say, interesting. That's a neutral comment. You don't say a negative thing. Or like my example with Seamus, what I did instead of resenting him for needing braces twice, I said, Shay, I'm willing to buy you braces one more time. And that can be now or that can be in the future. When you're ready, you have to lock in. That's the words that Saoirse uses. You have to lock in and be completely compliant because I'm not buying you braces again. Is now the time for you to do that? And he said yes. And it remains to be seen, but I am making that commitment to him, whether he follows through or not. I'm not going to hound him. I'm not going to shame him. I'm not going to stay on his arse about wearing the braces. What I'm going to do is love him and commit to this for him. And I'm going to stay out of all of that, but I'm going to have compassion and understanding. And he said it to me. He goes, I'm not the kid who had the braces 6 or 7 years ago. Now he's 18. He likes to consider himself an adult man. I love that. So that adult man is going to comply, or he's going to use his last chance to have straight teeth. So what we're doing here, compassion and empathy and acting in a new way. So back to that thought before I wrap it up. The acting in a new way is having a conversation with him. Babe, I'm happy to buy you braces one more time. I would like you to consider if you want that time to be now or in the future when it might be easier for you to commit. So let me know. You think about that, okay? And let me know. That's the conversation we had. Not braces are super expensive. If you get them, you better wear them. If you don't, I'm going to be really mad. None of that. Is this the time for you? I'm willing one more time. Is this it? A nice conversation that connected us, didn't pull us apart. I love that. Okay, so another way. So you're going to use the act, think, feel. So let me offer the brain hack straight and narrow. Figure out the times that you are acting in a way that gives you a negative response. Because when you're caught in porn, your self-awareness might be very low. So for you to sit down and really think about it might be difficult. But you can do that if you think you have enough self-awareness. If not, when you act and someone's annoyed with you, someone's mad at you, or vice versa, if you're annoyed or you're frustrated with a person, sit down for a minute and dissect those times in your life. Then figure out a new way to act, a healthier, benevolent, positive way to act which will change your thinking about the situation, which will help you feel what's going on within it. All right, now let's transition to gratitude for just a minute. It's Thanksgiving, and we know gratitude is so, so powerful. So gratitude is highly spiritual and it's highly moral. That's where it fits together with forgiveness. So it's a life orientation towards perceiving and appreciating the good things. It is a view of abundance instead of a view of lack. And it helps you to tap into the positive aspects of the world, even in difficult circumstances. So, going back to, this is a difficult circumstance. If you're caught up in the porn loop and you can't break free and you have relationship problems, we know that comes along with porn use. If you're not able to focus, if your work is suffering, you're not finding pleasure and happiness and joy in the real world, we know it's difficult to have a positive worldview because you're in a difficult circumstance. So here is your brain hack strategy. I want you to go deep and wide on being grateful for what you have. Every single day, look around and be grateful. You can simply be grateful for the car you drive. Don't have a car? You can be grateful for your bike. You can literally be grateful for what you have and appreciate it and take care of it. So, this is an action step. Gratitude, feeling it and thinking it and writing down the things you're grateful for, that's step number one. But acting from a perspective of gratitude, moving through the world and taking care of the things that are important to you. So, if your people are important to you, take care of them. Say kind words to them. Do things that are nice for them. Show them that you are grateful for them. If you have a home that, maybe you don't even love it, maybe you're balling on a budget, like I like to say, take care of it. Wash the dishes in the sink. Show gratitude for the things that you have. Keep your room tidy. I know my kids, I have half and half. I have messy kids, I have tidy kids. But these kids, they actively keep their rooms tidy. They actively keep their space clean. Show appreciation and gratitude for the things that you have by keeping them kempt. This is really important. For the hobbies that you love, go do them. Revel in the pleasure that you can get from the world with your people. My husband did this today. It's too much information, but let me share it with you. He was on the way out. He actually startled me because we already said goodbye to each other. We gave each other a little kiss and a little hug. And I turned around and there he is again. Startled me. And you know what he did? He gave me a long hug. Get ready for that, right? Long hug. And he gave me this kiss and he looked deep into my eyes, which is just absolutely adorable. He wanted to make sure we had this moment of connection before he left for the day. And then he told me to rock it out, which, as you know, that's my saying. Rock it out. I'll see you later. I said, you too, babe. That's him showing appreciation for me. Doing a double take, coming back and just appreciating being with me. He actually says things like that all the time. He's so much better about that. He'll say, I'm having fun making dinner with you. I'm glad to make dinner with you. And I'm just bagging out the dinner, getting the dinner made. And he goes, I'm glad to be able to make dinner with you. That's gratitude, sharing it through his words. Okay, so when you show gratitude, this is what is shown through science. Gratitude and having a positive perspective on your life is shown to have more positive outcomes in addiction recovery. So, not only is it going to feel good, it's going to help you succeed. All right, until next time, I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. I'm so excited to watch the parade. The Thanksgiving Day parade is one of my favorite things in the whole world. My family sits with me, they're always around. The kids are coming back from college. We're going to sit around in the new pajamas I bought us that say Forced Family Fun. You can look for the photo once I make them take it. Forced Family Fun, the triple F's. One cool thing, my daughter Fiona, years ago, 10 years ago, Fiona said to me, can we just call it family fun? I love that. So it stopped being forced family fun a long time ago. Now they just want to do it. So I hope you have a blessed Thanksgiving, and I hope forgiveness and gratitude show up for you so that you can stay out of the screen and enjoy your life. Get back to resetting those pleasure pathways, back to your work, your people, and your hobbies. Okay, if you need more help on the journey, please go over to drtrishleigh.com. I have a digital program that you can get started right away. And for Thanksgiving, we're using a coupon code, THANKS100. You can get $100 off of that program so that you can commit to quit moving into 2025 and become the best version of yourself, having pleasure and happiness in the real world. That's what I want for you. If you want to have your brain mapped so that you can see if there's dysfunction in there that's driving your habit, please schedule a QEEG brain map and think about the neurofeedback program to keep your brain regulated. And until next time, control your brain or it'll control you.